So, almost a year ago, I uploaded the most popular video to my YouTube channel, discussing the inaugural Music City Grand Prix, and how it was a bit of a mess. Marcus Ericsson went from trying to escape to the moon to winning the first race around the streets of Nashville, in a Grand Prix which saw 2 red flags and 9 safety car periods. Yeah, you heard that right, but surely this would just be a one-off, right? I mean, it couldn't happen again. Could it? So, after 2021's race in Nashville was nothing less than a complete and utter clusterfuck, the track designers decided to make some changes and revisions to the circuit for the second edition of the Grand Prix. Firstly, the restart line was moved to the end of the bridge in an aim to reduce pile-ups, which I'm sure will age well. Some walls have been pushed back to improve driver sight lines, which I'm sure will age well, and a lot of bumps have been smoothened out, which I'm sure will age well. With everything looking to age well, let's give you a little summary of the Drivers' Championship coming into this one. Will Power had just taken over the lead of the championship after a third place finish at the last round in Indianapolis. With 50 points on offer for a win though, there was still a whole host of drivers capable of taking that spot from him. Power's closest rival would be ex-F1 driver and previous Nashville winner Marcus Ericsson, with Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon aiming to add to their title tallies as well. McLaren driver Pato O'Ward and McLaren driver, provided he hasn't got an existing Ganassi contract, Alex Palou, were also still in the race, though their odds are a little slimmer coming into this one. And since we've mentioned Palou, he was still at odds with his Ganassi team boss Kingpin over here, all over where he drives in 2023. But I have a whole separate video covering that topic, so go and check that out after this one. Back to the title battle though, and there are actually 14 drivers mathematically still in the title hunt, all the way down to Romain Grosjean, but I'm sure we'll touch on them all at some point in this video, probably as they crash into the barrier. None of these drivers would top first practice, however, with that honour going to rookie Christian Lundgaard, who led from McLaren's Felix Rosenqvist and Dale Coyne's David Malukas. That session wasn't without its incidents, however, as Dalton Kellett was the first to go on an adventure at turn 1. That would set the order for the day, as the master of street courses and the master of binning it at street courses, Colton Herta, made an identical mistake. Besides that, and some near misses for Grosjean and Felix Rosenqvist, it was a pretty calm first practice for Nashville standards, leading us all to wonder whether practice 2 would go the same way. And in short, no. No, it really wouldn't. Dutch driver Rinus VeeKay had just signed a contract extension with Ed Carpenter Racing, and showed his gratitude to the team by bending the front end of his car into the Nashville barriers. Graham Rahal, meanwhile, must have really liked this approach, as he decided to do the exact same thing later in the session, though at least was able to get his car back to the pits for a change of front wing. Turn 9 was also proving difficult for the drivers, as for a circuit that had recently had its bumps removed, it was still bumpy as fuck. Colton Herta, Pato O'Ward and Callum Ilott were 3 of the big names to fall foul here, and Felix Rosenqvist might have as well, though we didn't get that far. Quite a lot of action for one session then, right? Well, it's not over, as Devlin DeFrancesco opted to sum up his entire IndyCar season when he slapped it into the barrier. It would be New Zealander Scott McLaughlin in P1, however, with Newgarden and Power rounding out the top 3 heading into qualifying. And Devlin DeFrancesco would be at it again, deciding that Nashville could do with a new corner for the remaining 25 drivers to navigate around as he stopped at turn 4. That brought out the red flag and meant that Devlin was unable to move to the next part of qualifying. Not that he was likely to anyway. When we got underway again, it was Herta setting the timing screens alive, before he decided he'd have his traditional crash earlier this weekend and brought out a second red flag. With not enough time left in the session, that meant Herta, alongside Simon Pagenaud, Alex Rossi and Felix Rosenqvist, would be the big names that would fail to progress into the Firestone Fast 12. Thankfully, the second half of the grid would be much cleaner, which is a surprise when you remember that's where Jimmy Johnson is. More big names would fail to make it through here though, including championship contenders Dixon and Ericsson, as the 26-car field was now reduced to 12. But only 6 would progress into the final part of qualifying, and one driver determined to do so was Practice 1 pacer Lundgaard, who showed front-running form throughout to move into the Fast 6. By the end, it would look like he would progress along with Palou, McLaughlin, Newgarden, Grosjean and Power, but it wasn't quite over yet. Will had made an error after coming over the bridge, running straight on, and though he got going quickly after, the local yellow got in the way of Pato O'Ward, and by IndyCar rules, that meant Power lost his fastest lap time, and thus handed his spot in the Fast 6 to the McLaren driver. So it all came down to this then, and it was once again Lundgaard showing good form as he put together a challenge for pole. However, as the time ran out, he saw his lap bested by Romain Grosjean, who was on fire for the first time since, well, you know. Romain's Nashville pole, though, would be denied by McLaughlin, who put together a storming lap in the final moments to beat the Frenchman by a 10.5 going into Sunday. I should mention, however, that if the on-track action wasn't chaotic enough, the whole qualifying session had to be delayed due to extreme lightning and thunderstorms, and that would all return for Sunday. Except it would be a hell of a lot worse. We would have to endure a 2-hour-long wait before we finally got going again in Nashville, which meant a 10 PM race start time here in the UK, just in case you wondered why I looked so tired in this video. Anyway, we get underway, finally, with McLaughlin making a perfect start over Grosjean as miraculously everyone made it cleanly through turn 1, which is actually turn 9 because America. We'd actually managed 3 laps under green until Herta opted to add another crash to his collection after contact with the 4 of Dalton Kellett. He was able to limp back to the pits though, meaning we got another full 5 laps of racing before Alex Rossi forgot turn 10 existed and ran straight on, stalling his car. After the first of what would be many caution periods, we were able to get going again and got 11 whole laps of green flag racing. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a record around Nashville at this point. Anyway, on lap 22, Helio Castroneves managed to somehow get his car stuck perpendicular to the racetrack on the exit of turn 3. With us now in caution number 2, the pits would open, and we got a flurry of stops as everyone and their mother fitted fresh Firestone tyres. This was perfect timing though for the likes of Palou, Johnson, Pagenaud and Malukas, who had stopped before the yellow and thus cycled up to the front. Johnson, not used to running this high up the order, floundered as per usual, losing P2 to Pagenaud on the restart and was only saved from dropping back further when the Nashville car park made its return from 2021. Power was hit by O'Ward, who was hit a little harder by Graham Rahal behind, and this continued all up the second half of the field, with Callum Ilott reminiscing the old F2 days as he stalled it and blocked the track. Now with O'Ward, Kellett, Rahal and Simona Di Silvestro all out, we would spend a lengthy time under caution before we got racing again on lap 33. But we wouldn't make it one corner before Ilott and Rossi went off again, before Di Francesco decided to get some screen time by binning himself and Sato into the wall. Back to the pace car we go. On the restart, Palou still led from Pagenaud and Malukas, though nearly found the wall when the Frenchman in P2 locked his brakes into turn 9. Further back, pole sitter McLaughlin was able to fight past Malukas for 3rd, but 10 laps later we were under caution yet again, this time as Rahal hit the wall. But at this point I know what you're thinking. Hang on Will, didn't you say Rahal retired from the Grand Prix earlier in the video? And yes I did. Graham got out of the car and was even doing interviews with the media, before I imagine just saying, "F it, I might be 25 laps down, but let's just cause some chaos." And chaos indeed he created, as VK opted to sacrifice his race to help the 15 car out the wall. And it was pace car time once again. Oh, and we're barely past half distance at this point. Yeah, we've got a long way to go. Anyway, this was all great news for Scott Dixon, who had just pitted and would now see himself move up to the front as everyone else boxed for fresh tyres under the pace car. The rookies of Carl Kirkwood and David Malukas were also shining through all the drama, running 6th and 7th and looking at their best IndyCar finish. You know what, never mind. We get going again with just 11 laps to go, and now the Andrettis are on the move. Grosjean making an incredible double overtake to get past Herta and Ericsson, who seemed to be having issues with his Ganassi car as he dropped down the field. And it was getting to that point in the race where we were all thinking the same thing. This is a bit odd. Jimmy Johnson hasn't crashed yet. Ah, there we go. The Carvana Honda lost it on the bumps and slammed into the wall, bringing out yellow number I've lost count at this point. So with just 5 laps to go and it now being well past midnight in the UK, I'll be honest, I just wanted this race to end so I could go to sleep. Oh, for fuck. With Grosjean now on the wall and a lot of work to do to clear the track, the race was red flagged to allow for a 1-lap sprint at the end. And I'm just trying not to remember Abu Dhabi 2021 here. Anyway, Palou would make it past Lundgaard to snatch a podium as Dixon and McLaughlin battled out front to see who would take the crown at Nashville. Despite a drag race to the line, Dixon held on, taking his 2nd victory of the year and making it 2 for 2 for Kingpin's team at the Music City Grand Prix. So overall then, that was a mess. However, we kind of expected that coming into it. For 2 races now, we've seen just as many laps under the safety car as we have under green, and it does beg the question whether we could do more around the streets of Nashville. However, I won't lie, this was still very entertaining. But what are your thoughts on this one? Did you enjoy the crash fest or hate it? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video and are new here, why not consider subscribing? I cover both F1 and IndyCar on this channel, so if dry humour is your thing, why not click on that big red button under the video. Finally, a big thank you to all my patrons, especially Peter Barber who signed up after the last video. If you want to get involved in supporting the work I do over here, the link to that along with all my other socials are down in the description and pinned comment. But for now, that's all from me, so I'll see you soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.